In earlier voyages, they've found many colonies no one else has ever seen. Deception Island, near the northern end of the peninsula, an early stop for the Ponceys, and the site of a big colony of one of the 3 penguin species dominant on the peninsula, chinstraps. Scientists use penguins as a key indicator species to gauge the health of the entire delicate Antarctic ecosystem. To do that, though, they must know how many penguins are actually here. If the penguin population changes radically, the scientists will know something is wrong here. That is why the Ponceys sail and climb to these remote places to count the birds.
You can do a rough estimate by just counting up groups of, say, 100 and then multiplying up the groups of 100. That's a very rough estimate. If you want to do it properly, though, you've got to map out the area that the colony is occupying and then work out average density of the colony and multiply it up. Like, it's a couple of days' work to do it accurately. But you can get a good estimate. If you take your time in a couple of hours, you can get a pretty good estimate of it. But we just compare it with colonies we know from elsewhere. One in particular with 30 to 40,000 pairs, and it's a lot smaller than this. This is huge. Must be one of the biggest chinstrap penguin colonies down on the peninsula, I think. This one, it's got to be, I think. It's huge.
Chinstrap penguins seldom change mates, and they prefer to return to the same nest sites each year to hatch the young. The nests are rings of small stones set just out of pecking range of incubating neighbors. The females usually take the first shift, sitting on the eggs, fasting for up to 8 days. Then the males take over and the females can feed again. Some of the small shrimp-like krill they find at sea is regurgitated for the penguin chicks. Sally does not spend much time with the colonies here on Deception Island, though. This time, her work lies further south. Dee is the youngest of the boys.
This is what's a giant sea mouse. Here's George. Can we put it back in the water?
Leif, the middle boy, finds that this summer, geology has captured his attention. Dion is the oldest, a budding artist, with an interest in mechanical things also.
Don't jump. Just go slowly down. Can you turn around the other way?
Some of this Antarctic exploration that the boys share can look dangerous to an outsider.
Still hanging on to the rocks.
But plainly, Sally and Jerome see great benefits in bringing the children with them. At home in the Falklands, a traveling schoolmaster visits for a couple of weeks every other month or so, with lessons from Sally in between. On board the Damien II, the boys learn about Earth science by splashing where boiling volcanic waters mix with the near-frozen sea. Boys bang away at rock, looking for gold, or fool's gold even, and making plans to get rich and buy firecrackers back at home.
Look at that. It's a big lump of mica. Here, take it. There's enough money to buy all the devil bags in the Falklands. No more, John. John, no more.
You can just see the difference that it's made to them. And coming down here for 3 months, I mean, you can see how many people they meet and what they're introduced to and what they're capable of learning. And there's no way, I mean, there are other ways of getting the same education or the same facts, but this is a very, very good way of getting it, you see.
At Foyne Harbor on the peninsula, the boys explore a site left over from one of the first significant human impacts on the Antarctic. It's an old whaler's anchorage, where boats once filled casks with glacier water. The whalers are long gone. The whaling ship lies abandoned where it ran aground. In the hold of the wreck, the boys find dozens of the cone-shaped tips for harpoons that once took tens of thousands of whales in a season, until some species were threatened with extinction. At last, international protest put a stop to commercial whaling. And there are signs that the animals may... Near Palmer Station, an American research site, Dion joins a party of skin divers from the base who are going to see what remains of one of the biggest environmental threats the continent has seen.
Actually, we're surveying the wreck today to look for oil spills.
Oil leaks.
And some of the oil leaks they plugged up with wooden bugs and splash zone last year.
The divers are protected as much as possible by their dry suits, but the water is frigidly cold, 33 degrees. Early last year, an Argentine supply ship that doubled as a tourist boat ran aground. Passengers used home video cameras to take these pictures. Within hours, they were rescued, but 4 days later, the ship had turned on its side. The ship's cargo of diesel oil began to spill. A Chilean Navy ship arrived quickly to contain the damage, but it was a month before Argentine and American crews managed to seal the wreck.
It had about 250,000 gallons on board, and they're estimating that about half of that, 125,000, came out when it rolled.
It might have been worse if the ship had carried heavy black crude oil instead of diesel fuel. But still, scientists worry that their research will be affected because the once pristine area is no longer so pure. The wreck has gone through a single Antarctic winter, but the damage has been very severe.
Looks kind of like a beer can that's been totally crushed. And there used to be 2 helicopters there. There's no sign of them at all now, other than 2 tires. And the heli deck is mostly crushed. And there's no visible signs of oil leaking out anymore.
Any cleanup operation would be difficult here. Indeed, all along the peninsula, it's clear that very often no one bothers to clean the mess that is left behind. The penguins hardly seem to notice, but nevertheless, many environmentalists are concerned that we may spoil the last really large wilderness left on Earth before we begin to understand it. Today, tourist ships send groups like this one from New York's Museum of Natural History ashore to the sites where once only scientists went. Antarctica's past and present meet here and perhaps show the way to the future as well.
Not too close to the penguins.
Some environmentalists want to see the entire continent now made into a world park. No development or exploitation allowed. The Antarctic to remain as it is, a place for research. And for amateur naturalists to see the greatest unspoiled wilderness left. Some of the old geophysical year stations are still operating. The British base Faraday, for instance, plays a role in researching the periodic huge loss of ozone in the atmosphere over the southern polar region. Further south, another British base, Rothera, serves as a headquarters for inland science projects that can only be reached by plane. The flights take off from a runway cleared from the glacier, with a path well marked so the aircraft doesn't slide into one of the nearby crevasses that split the surface. From the air, an observer easily sees the extent of one of the great treasures and paradoxes of Antarctica: ice. This is the driest continent. Hardly any snow or rain ever falls. But what does fall is frozen in place and remains. So Antarctica is both the continent with the least precipitation and the one with the most water, almost all of it locked up in ice. Some estimates are that 70% of the world's fresh water is here. The ice here on the plateau also provides an ancient atmospheric record that's key to studying new phenomena such as the greenhouse effect. These operations are just underway. When full drilling begins, the scientists will be able to plunge the drill bit through centuries to see what changes have occurred over time.